Okay, if it is Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, that can mean just one thing. It is time for the goRIA live stream. I'm Chuck Vela, and this week, as I like to do on most Wednesday afternoons, I want to put a spotlight on what is new over at www.goria.com. And what is new this week is a brand new podcast that just dropped, and I had a chance to catch up with my good friend Jim Pavia, who you will most certainly know was most recently the editor for the CNBC digital outlet, and just a longtime journalist, not only at CNBC, but Investment News, the daily news covering sports. So he really is a journalist's journalist, if you will, and truly a good friend of mine, a good cigar buddy, and we go back so many years. So I asked Jim to come on and share some thoughts that I think are really important for any advisor, broker dealer or RIA, but also it puts a highlight or spotlight, I should say, on one of the many reasons I like the RIA space, which is higher payout, absolutely sure, most of the time, but really the freedom. And in this case, the freedom to express yourself in the media with, I would argue, a great deal more ease than you could, generally speaking, in the broker dealer space. And we talk about this. So if you like working in the media, and I love working in the media, or you want to get into the media, that could be another good reason why you would want to choose the RIA space, because it does really unshackle you quite a bit from the constraints that are normally found in the broker-dealer space. So here's a little clip about what Jim and I spoke about, and I found that to be fantastic. So for the folks listening, Jim, that are thinking about going RIA, one of their reasons of going RIA, higher payout, sure, but it's more freedom to market as you wish, work with your clients as you wish, and use the media. So for the advisors out there that want to get more involved in working in the media, what are some of the do's and don'ts?
Well, first of all, you raised the most solid point about compliance. That was like a really tough word for me to hear from an advisor. For instance, and it happened all the time. I would get an advisor who worked for, a broker dealer, pitch an idea for a column. We ran a lot of, we, When I ran the personal finance team at CNBC, I used to love to write, contact advisors to write op-eds and opinion pieces to supplement special reports or something we were doing. So I would spread out the net and see who I get. So an advisor would reach out to me and say, "Hey, Jim, I have this really great idea about writing about, catch-up contributions for 401k." And then they would submit it. And then 3 days later, they go, "Okay." I would say, we're gonna run this next week. Oh, I can't. Compliance hasn't gone through it yet. Then the compliance department would reach out and they would be going through what he can and can't say, or can and can't say. And it would, so the timing was important because it's news. And I finally told these advisors, I can't wait around. I have to publish this right away. So someone like yourself, an RIA, reaches out and says, "Hey, I want to do this." And you're responsible to yourself.
Right.
And, these things fly through. Time is of the essence when you're working with the media. And I'll bring up some points about, to that as well. But your work, if you're an advisor and you want to get on air or get an op-ed in or get a quote in, the reporters are on incredible deadlines, especially nowadays. It's not newspapers anymore. It's by seconds, right? Because everything's on the web.
Yeah.
So you really have to pay attention and be appreciative of the time that these reporters and editors are putting in. So you have to really be responding. Um, One of the most frustrating things I I had this, I'll tell you some true stories, but I won't name people. Okay. It was an advisor that we had been working
Okay.
with for a long
So
time, and he said,
this is just a little
we have
taste,
this
of
young
course,
advisor.
and Jim goes on and shares some really interesting stories. And to his promise, he didn't name names, but the stories were probably worth not naming names because they were pretty intriguing. So this is a little teaser. But if you go to goria.com, you can listen to all the stories, which are fantastic. And that's up right now on goria.com. So that's it for this week. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next Wednesday, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, with what will then be new on Go RIA. I'll see you then.